You're listening to The Weather Junkies.
Oh boy. Large wedge tornado coming up into Tuscaloosa.
A winter storm warning is in effect for our area.
The snow, we can expect at least another 2 to 4 inches overnight. Then that snow.
The National Weather Service in Huntsville has issued a tornado warning for northwestern Massachusetts.
14 to 22 inches of snow!
Good Thursday evening. Thank you for joining us here on the Weather Junkies. I am Tyler Jankowski, and I'm not joining the show from Connecticut any longer. But anyways, Dakota is here, and I believe, Dakota, you're still in Colorado.
Still in Colorado. Another beautiful day in Colorado. Gotten to the mid-50s today along the Front Range. Nothing but sun. So yeah, not much to complain about. There's a little snow piles left on the ground from our most recent snowstorm. But yeah, really nice day. So I guess, Tyler, how did the move go, and how do you like your new job?
I love the apartment that I'm in. I'm in Plattsburgh, New York. I don't know if you said I was moving last week or not, but that's why I wasn't here. So the move went very well. The apartment is great. I am on air the first time tomorrow, and then I'm on this weekend. But everything is good so far. It is very close to Canada. An hour or less from Montreal, really figuring a lot of things out. I'll probably listen to this YouTube clip in 3 years and hopefully think positively about this. But yeah, so I'm all by myself, and this is the first time that I've ever moved away from home, not counting college. There's no meal plan up here. So that is the big adjustment. And a lot of things. I mean, it's not easy starting somewhere when you don't know anyone.
Yeah, well, that's great. I'm happy for you. And how's the weather up there today?
Cloudy, not very good. We're actually in the valley, the Champlain Valley. So when people hear northern New England or Plattsburgh, New York, northern New York, they think really cold and really snowy. And it is cold. It's colder than Connecticut, but it's not as snowy as the mountains. I mean, there's probably a half foot of snow on the ground at least in a lot of areas when you head 50 miles west or east of here. But we have nothing. We have grass with a little bit of slush left on the sides of the road from a little snow the other day, but basically nothing. And I actually had lunch with one of the other meteorologists who's been here for like 35 years. He was primarily a school teacher. And he was like, back in the day in the 70s and 80s, there would be plenty of days when it would be like 30 below zero. And wow. It's really tough for that to happen. Or it doesn't really happen that much anymore. But it's a little scary knowing I'm in an area that can get down that low.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a colder place. It's a snowier place, but the summers are beautiful. I was actually doing some studying on the sunrise and sunset and day length. It turns out, since we're at a higher latitude here, this isn't something you think about all the time, but it's slightly higher latitude here than Connecticut. And so while the days are shorter here in the winter than Connecticut, the days are longer.
Yeah.
By like 15 or 20 minutes in the summer. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that is. And I'm sure it'll be exciting to forecast for a whole new area.
Not easy. The radar coverage is not that great.
Oh, you're in a gap, kind of.
The mountain blocks it in so many directions.
Well, I know how you feel there. So before I introduce our guest this week, a few housekeeping notes here. AMS, the American Meteorological Society, is hosting their annual meeting next week. It's the 97th, I believe, meeting that they've held in Seattle, Washington. I'll be going there. I'm leaving tomorrow, actually. And the reason I bring it up is because there will be a table at the student conference for the WAZES group. That group does a lot with weather and integrating social science into weather. And I'll be at that table with Weather Hype hosts Casa Williams and Min Fon. So say hi to me. Even if I'm not at the table, say hi to me at the student conference if you're going. And finally, I've been tweeting about this a lot. I'm presenting in the 5th symposium on building a weather-ready nation. I'm presenting the Weather Ready or Not podcast. just to, share what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and why I think it can be useful for the public and our community. That's on Tuesday at 5:15. So you can check there's a link on Twitter with all the information and everything. But yeah, if you're not doing anything Tuesday evening and you're at AMS, come see my presentation, say hi. I'd love to talk to you. But without further ado, let's introduce our guest this week. Noah Brauer is a good friend of mine. He's out here in Colorado as well, just south of Denver. And he writes a lot for Weather 5280. We actually talked about him last week. And he works in the private sector at Meteostar. So Noah, welcome to the show. And I guess I don't really need to ask you how the weather is down there. But how is the weather down there?
It's pretty similar, mid-50s, got some snow on the ground. I think you guys actually got some more snow than what we got down here. But almost all melted away. So
yeah,
guess get ready for more.
Yeah, I hope so. There might be a storm coming when I'm gone, but
yeah, you're gonna miss out. But
I might miss out, but that's okay.
I'll measure for you.
Yeah, thanks. So we're gonna talk with Noah a lot more, get into why he does what he does and how he got there. Noah, feel free to chime in on some of the tweets here that we're going to talk about.
Sure.
Our first tweet here is from good friends over at Weather Hype. This is an AMS tweet, by the way. You can follow them at Weather Hype. And their tweet says, "We're back. On episode 22, we provide tips for the upcoming AMS Student Conference and AMS Regular Conference. Listen here." So if you don't already listen to them, you should give them a listen. They produce a lot of good content, and this is nothing different. It's a good refresher for people who have already been to AMS but are returning. But it's a great thing to use if you're brand new to AMS and need some tips on what to do, what to wear, where to go. So give that a listen. I guess we'll move on to our next tweet. I don't think anyone has anything to chime in there.
Only thing I'll say is I love their logo.
Oh yeah, they have a nice logo. Min makes graphics. At least he did this summer for FEMA, so he has a lot of skill there and experience there.
Yeah, they're big on effective communication of weather and weather events. I know Min does a lot for the National Weather Service too, or did in the past. Awesome graphics. You should check them out. A lot of good stuff coming from Min and Castle. So
fully endorsed here by everyone.
Yes.
So we'll move on to the next tweet here, and this is big news in the climate world this week. NASA, this tweet's from NASA. You can follow them at NASA. Their tweet says, "New record set in 2016 for Earth's global average surface temperatures, warmest since record keeping began in 1880. Tyler, I'll let you chime in here.
This is a nice tweet. I hadn't seen this animation before, but actually, I think I saw an early rendition of it. But that is remarkable. There, 2016, pulling away from the pack there. Also saw the map form with all the little red grid boxes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's much to say. I think everyone expected this. When you add up all the months, I mean, I'm only thinking regionally, but we all see the updates on Twitter throughout the year.
Yeah, you're right. Not a big surprise.
I haven't seen an ice update recently, but yeah, this is not surprising.
Yeah, so I have one thing to say about this. It pretty much dominated news this week. What's going on over there?
my scanner is on in the background. I'm testing it out. It's not quite as good as Bristol, but anyways.
I thought we were going to the EM.
I wasn't sure if you could hear that. It's in the other room. Something's got to keep me company.
Get a cat.
I don't think they're allowed.
Oh, I see. So anyways, so one thing about this, it is no surprise that 2016 is the coldest year on record, but this dominated headlines yesterday. NASA had a press conference and everything, and it just dominated everything. Everyone was talking about it. And I think that we should use some caution when we go all in heavy on something like this. Because, next year it's probably not going to be the warmest year. and you're going to have people on the opposite side who don't, really, for some reason, don't believe in the whole climate change thing. And they're going to say, oh, well, this year it wasn't warmer than last year, so global warming must not be a thing. And stuff like that. If we don't have, if we have some off year that is colder for some reason globally than maybe like the past few years, then people can jump on that and say this year is the reason why global warming doesn't exist. So I think we should use caution with saying this year being the hottest year ever proves global warming, because it doesn't. What proves global warming is a upward increase of temperatures over the past 100 years. And then the science behind all that, the greenhouse effect, CO2, more CO2 in the atmosphere, that's what proves global warming. It's not that this year's the warmest year. That does not prove global warming. I'll get off my pedestal. Sorry.
No, I think it's also important to mention too that it's the globally average temperature too, because I hear people saying, "Oh, we had such a cold, anomalously cold winter," and they're talking about their region, solely their region, but you really have to look at statistics throughout the entire globe. So I feel like that's a point that's often left out too.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah. So yeah, we can move on to our final tweet here. This is kind of a silly one. This is from Marissa Ferger. She's a meteorologist at Penn State in the Penn State department. Tyler and I were, pretty close with her when we went there, and it's a video of Puxatawny Phil being wheeled in like a trash can or something.
As Fred would say.
Yeah. So they had this whole thing where Phil came to the department and everyone like took a picture with it. And I don't get the Phil thing. I gotta be honest. I don't get it. Yeah.
It's a huge thing in Penna. I love the picture. She also posted a picture. I guess it was a number of years ago that Phil also visited. Actually, back in 2008, so 9 years ago. And she posted a comparison picture of the two groups. And I've never met Phil. I've never even been to Punxsutawney. Have you?
I have not. No.
It's a destination, I hear, on one day of the year.
So what?
So what? Yeah, Punxsutawney Phil scares me because some people think he's actually a predictor of weather. So
we don't even know if he's the same animal. Maybe they have like 3 of them.
I doubt he's the same one.
How often does it die?
I don't know. I don't think we want to go down that
Actually,
route.
the Connecticut one, we used to have one in Connecticut, and it died recently in like the last year or 2.
Another groundhog?
Yeah, in Connecticut, it's called something else. Connecticut groundhog. Chuckles the groundhog.
Oh my gosh. Why? Why does that exist? Well, anyways, we'll move on here from groundhogs because that's not really weather. So let's go into our main topic tonight, and that is the sectors of meteorology. For those of you that don't know, there's 3 sectors. Well, there's not only 3 sectors, but there's 3 broad sectors that are commonly used in meteorology. And that's operational meteorology, like if you work for the National Weather Service or you're a forecaster in the government. There's academia, if you're a researcher, you're a faculty member, a grad student. And then there's the private sector, if you work at a company, anything to do with the company. If you're a software programmer or if you're a forecaster for AccuWeather, it's all part of it. So Noah, you kind of have your foot in a lot of different areas, and that's why we had you on for this topic, because you're about to go to grad school. I know you don't want me to say that, but and right now you've been in the private sector for a few years, and you also forecast for the local Colorado group here, Weather 5280. So what kind of led you to this point where you have your foot everywhere?
So I've always kind of known that I wanted to end up doing research and go to grad school and hopefully end up doing something operational too at some point. I kind of just wanted to get a taste of all different sectors of meteorology, but I figured I just wanted to, I just really wanted to see what's out there in the field and explore different sectors of the field. So that's how I ended up in software right now, where I am right now. And I've really, really learned a lot. And it's been a really eye-opening experience just seeing not only what my company does, but what a lot of other companies and organizations do in the field.
That's cool. And what about your work at Weather 5280? How did you end up forecasting for them?
So I've always been fairly active on weather Twitter, is what people call it. And yeah, we would converse a lot on Twitter. This was mainly actually my junior year and senior year of undergrad. And I would always go to the Weather 5280 meetups. If you're in Colorado, the next one we have, you should definitely come in and join us. They're a lot of fun, but yeah, it's just great. It's a great environment to just discuss weather. And I really didn't have too big of a group to discuss weather before Weather 5280 here. And I guess I was kind of lonely in a weather sense. So they've really, I know, but I'm really happy now. So it's not sad. So yeah, it's just a really great place to discuss weather, make collaborative forecasts. And I mean, I've learned so much from all of them. So it's just been a really great opportunity.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoy the work that you do and everyone on that team. Yeah, it's tough forecasting out here. So I wouldn't want to be in that position, but I'm glad you guys are, because you do a good job. So I guess this is, it's a good time to talk about this because AMS is on the horizon. I guess what types of, we usually save this for the end of the show, but because we're talking about the sectors of meteorology, I'm curious, Noah, what would you tell someone who has no idea what they're going to do, and they're in meteorology, they're about to get a degree or about to get into a program, and they don't really know where to go? If they want to go work for AccuWeather, they want to go work for the National Weather Service, they don't know. What would you tell them?
I would honestly just say, I mean, apply to everything. Just broaden your range of ideas of what you want to do. I definitely didn't think that my junior year I would be doing stuff with software and doing some IT work on the side. I definitely didn't think that, but it's been a really, really valuable experience. And yeah, I would just suggest get your foot in the door. Just talk to as many people as you can throughout different sectors. Just keep your mind open. That's really the main thing. And of course, that will lead you down a different path too. I've worked with people from NASA. I've worked with like the Federal Aviation Administration in Colombia. So I've gotten to see what they've done. So you really just get a taste of different other sectors in the field through a job that you may be working too. Because you're gonna have to converse with other people in the field.
Yeah, I like that. Apply for everything.
Seriously, can't hurt.
So what's your do you have an end goal? Do you know what you're gonna do in 5 years? Or yeah, I know you want to go to grad school, but after that, what are you thinking?
I mean, I really would like to have some experience as an operational meteorologist. I really would like to work for the National Weather Service at some point. I think they do some great work, and I've really enjoyed seeing the way they've progressed and developed recently. And I think they've done a lot of really good work, and I'd really like to be a part of that. And I enjoy forecasting. I mean, my head's always up in the clouds, and I'm always I'm always thinking about the weather. So I think if I got to do that every day and got to forecast every day, I think that would just be amazing. I mean, I would be in heaven.
So right now you work at Meteostar?
Yeah, that's correct.
Tell us a little bit about Meteostar.
So what we do is we ingest raw data. We have Noah port dishes, and we also have data providers. So I think Wisconsin's one of our data providers. And so what we do is we take this data and we ingest it, and we decode it through our software, which is called LEADS. It's the Leading Environmental Analysis and Display System. So yeah, what we do is we take this data and we process it, and we have a user interface, a UI, and you can do so much with the software. We have alerting set up, we have interactive mapping, your usual contouring, your usual analysis. We even have our own scripting language, so you can write scripts that you can schedule, and they can publish stuff to web pages that we also set up. So we really do a lot. We also provide a lot of our aviation clients with data such as SIGMETs and AirMets. So yeah, we have a lot of customers in that industry. Really just hydrology too. We've been working with Hydromet in Germany and incorporating their sensors into our software. So really just a taste of everything. That's what I do. What I do personally with the company is, first of all, I make sure the software works. So I make sure everything's working as it should be. I also do some training on the side at customer sites, and also working some on the data flow side, so more of the IT portion of things. So making sure data is flowing to systems properly and making sure everything's set up the way it should be.
I see that there's some models freely available on the website. Is that just out there for anyone to use?
Yeah, so we have, I think it's WixWeb, WXWeb. .meteostar.com. So that's a free site. Anyone can use it. Anyone can look at it, and we have models and at least some satellite and radar up there. And we also have weather.meteostar.com, and that's where you actually need a subscription. But there's really just a lot of good stuff on there. A lot of model products. We do a lot of neat color maps, and really want to make things just look good. That is one of our goals, is to make things visually appealing.
So what types of things have you learned there that you'll be able to apply to grad school?
First, just, I mean, obviously meteorology, there's a lot of just, you need good technological skills, working with computers, data management. That's something I've definitely learned. And obviously Linux too. I work a lot with Linux every day, and managing data, keeping things organized, and just where this data comes from too, that's really valuable. Common data formats and ways that you can decode and process data. And lastly, just verifying that the data is valid, just making sure that it's doing what it should be, that it's actually going to be useful to our clients. So that's another thing, because believe it or not, we do come across bad messages every so often, and you never know when that can be catastrophic. So it's important to make sure that what we are providing to our customers is of quality.
You know, I'd argue that a student or a young professional who is coming out of a job like yours is looks better to a potential advisor than someone coming right out of undergrad, because you have a few years of pure programming and database management under your belt. And, you know, you have to, a lot of that you use in grad school. Because I know when I came out of grad school, I knew how to program, and you have to know how to program, at least in atmospheric science, unless you do field work. But yeah, I think that experience is really, really useful for grad school. So yeah, if anyone's listening and thinking about, you know, which way to go, even if you go to the private sector and for a few years, you can go back and you'll have learned a lot that you can use in grad school. So
yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And even like with this, I've been trying to learn different programming languages just because I know at some point it might be useful. There's always a way to apply these languages and these skills in the field. That's why I love meteorology too. It's so broad. It covers computer science, math, chemistry, physics, just so much. And being able to apply these skills is just it's valuable and it's rewarding. It's really nice.
Yeah. What is it about meteorology? It sucks everyone in. I guess there are a lot of things.
Is that a pun, Dakota?
Oh, no, it was. I didn't mean it to be.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm not the greatest at puns, so I try not to do them. Yeah. So you also storm chase out here, and what sector is that? Just
enjoyment sector?
Enjoyment, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I did want to talk about storm chasing for a second here. I know it's not really part of a sector of meteorology, but what's your kind of view on storm chasing? Why do you do it, and Yeah, I guess that's my question.
I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I enjoy it. It's fun. I really like just seeing the weather up close, not too close, but from a safe distance. And I really like just seeing the power of it and the just how unpredictable it is and what it can do. And obviously, I try and predict it as the best that I can, but it's extremely difficult. And I don't know. It really gave me a lot more respect. I already had a lot of respect, but it gave me even more respect for people in the operational sector that people's lives depend on. I mean, forecasting these events, it's extremely difficult. And so putting myself in their shoes for a little while it's challenging, and I enjoy it. And I also just enjoy looking at structure and seeing what I learned in class and applying it just to the field. Being able to apply all the skills that I learned in my coursework and forecasting these phenomena, and then going out and saying, okay, well, I missed this forecast for this reason. Why? What can I do next time to improve this? So it's kind of a learning experience as well, but mostly it's just for fun. It's an adrenaline rush. I think that's why a lot of people go out. What about you guys? Why do you guys like storm chasing?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what you said. I don't know. It makes me so happy to see a big old cumulonimbus cloud and a rotating wall cloud, and I know that in some cases they have negative consequences, so you have to keep that in the back of your mind. You can't be rooting for the storm, but it's just fascinating, and to observe something like that, I think it's powerful. It's powerful to me. It gives me some sort of message about why we're here and why we study the weather and meteorology. I like the point you brought up about putting yourselves in operational forecast shoes and how tough it is. It's also tough for other sectors who are forecasting for that event. Really, not really the academia research part, but the private sector, does a lot of forecasting there. I guess my question is how important is it for, this is kind of an easy question, so how important, no pressure, how important is it for all the sectors to come together in moments of like, say, a big tornado or severe weather outbreak?
I mean, I think it's extremely important. I think a lot of the times we forget about what our ultimate goal is just as a community. Obviously, we're going to have views that are different from each other's, but I think ultimately we just want to improve the science of forecasting, and we just want to keep people safe. And I know that sounds really cliche, but I think that really should be the goal. It's kind of like that who cares question in science, like, why does this matter? What significance is this? Well, I think the weather it impacts people's lives on a daily basis. It can be extremely dangerous. So I think we just need to work together as much as we can. And that's probably a little bit idealistic, but I really think that's what we need to do. I don't think there's any use or productivity in fighting over who made the better forecast or who got it wrong or who got it right. I think we should all learn from each other and, work on this together. It's a collaborative effort.
Now, previously on this show, we've talked about modern storm chasing and everything that you see online. I should say I'm not a storm chaser, or at least I haven't storm chased yet, but you hear all the time about traffic jams and who should be storm chasing and who shouldn't be storm chasing and how close you should get. What are your thoughts on all of those controversial subjects?
I mean, I guess first off, it's not, I don't feel like it's my job to say, or anyone's job for that matter, to say you shouldn't go out storm chasing. You're not doing it for the good of anyone. And I think that's fine that people aren't doing it for the good of anyone. But I think there is a way to do it responsibly. And where I start to have issues with people is when, people are overly confident and they get way too close than they should, and they put their lives in danger and they put other people's lives in danger. I mean, there you're not only not doing any good, but you're doing yourself harm and you're doing others harm. Another thing is just traffic laws. When you're out chasing, you should obey traffic laws. You should you should follow the rules. We are driving, and driving can be dangerous, especially in bad conditions. But overall, yeah, when people say they want to go out and chase and they're not meteorologists or they're not in the field, I think that's great. I think it's great that people have an appreciation for the weather, but I just think there's a way to do it responsibly and not push your boundaries. No pun intended.
There you go. There's a pun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wise words, Noah. I agree with you. We had Mark Ellenwood on the show a couple months ago, and actually probably like 6 months ago, and he had some very good words on storm chasing and the ethics of it, and the bad and good.
Yeah. There was an article that I think it was a Slate article that kind of got blown out of proportion the other month. I think you and I were talking about this, Dakota, a while ago.
Yeah.
It kind of bashed the whole storm chasing community, which I don't think is exactly the right approach to take. I'm not saying I totally disagree with the article, but I think it would have been more productive to phrase things in a different way rather than saying, storm chasers are clogging up the roads. Maybe just give people more of a realization of their impacts on storm chasing. So what they're actually doing while storm chasing. I think that would have been more of a productive approach. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the article, I think I can quote it here. It said, "Stay home, chasers." And when you give that strong of a negative message like that, it's not going to do any good.
No.
Yeah, it's just going to incite, I don't know, negative reaction. And I don't, maybe that's what Eric Holthouse wrote it. Maybe that's what Eric was going for, or I don't know what he was going for. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest way to frame it. And we have that problem a lot in weather in terms of communication and the media. I feel like I see a poorly written or poorly articulated weather or climate article several times a week, and I'm just like, why couldn't they get someone who knows the content to write that? Because we have so many good. I feel like we do have a lot of good meteorologists who write now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's I never thought about it, but that's kind of like another sector of meteorology that's continually emerging is the media side of it, not the on-air side, but like the
communication side of it.
Yeah, like the online communication side of it. That I feel like that gets the most heat on social media these days.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's something that all sectors really have to adapt to and almost take in, because I mean, the National Weather Service, they've done a great job with it. Twitter, using social media to convey uncertainty and talk about forecasts. And there have been some not so great cases, but I would say the vast majority of them are pretty, they've done a really great job. Private sector, same thing. I mean, reaching out to the public, because most people these days are on social media. So I think it's a really powerful tool that all sectors need to use.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, National Weather Service is continually doing a good job with that.
Agreed.
So, wow, we really went a lot of different ways there, from all the sectors to storm chasing, and now we're back to the sectors of meteorology.
It all ties in together. Yep.
It does, yeah. It really does, and we're just talking about random weather stuff. So while we have you here, I want your thoughts on Colorado forecasting. That's all. That's the premise. Colorado forecasting.
It's fun. It's a challenge, and it's a nightmare at the same time. I guess those are 3 words to sum it up. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm sure most of you know that are watching this or listening to this. Colorado has very complex terrain, so I would say the majority of our weather events here are terrain induced, whether that be convection in the summertime, upslope snow events, downsloping wind events. I mean, it really all ties back to terrain. So, and that's something the models don't exactly handle too well, especially the NAM. The NAM really struggles with terrain here. So that certainly poses a challenge when forecasting. But another thing is just how localized features are here. Mesoscale features here that are, I mean, just the other week, like heavy banded snow. I saw maybe I saw close to 3 inches down here in Parker, just southeast of Denver. But I think downtown Denver, about 20 miles away from me, they saw close to 6 inches, and Boulder, about 25 miles away from downtown Denver, saw upwards of a foot. So, I mean, that just gives you an idea of how difficult it can be to forecast snowfall events or even convection here. So I think that the underlying message here is it's really all just about patterns. And that's really what meteorology is, but it really comes down to that here in such a topographically diverse place. What do you think? Because you've been here for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. I've said my view a few times on the show, so listeners might be a little annoyed and over with it, but I don't think the level of forecasting out here is where it should be. The one example I keep giving, I think this is the third time I've said it on the show,
Let's hear it again.
is that the city of Boulder now puts out all of its plows whenever snow is in the forecast, regardless of how much, because last year they got burned hard on a snowstorm that overperformed, and now they're scared. They don't really trust the forecast, and they don't want that to happen again. Where they could be saving money. If the forecast was good, they could be saving money by deploying the right amount, the proper amount of snowplows. So yeah, I don't think it's where it needs to be, but I don't know if it's anyone's fault. It's just our models are not as good near 14,000 foot mountains. Yeah, than in a flatter area.
Go ahead.
I mean, that's the crux of the problem. So I'm hoping research ramps up in that area. I don't know if there will ever be kind of like a moment where, like a big event moment where it was not forecast well and a bunch of money is thrown in that direction to improve the forecasting. Sandy's a good example. I'm sure Katrina, the same thing happened. I don't want a big event like that to ever happen. No. But if it were to happen, maybe that would be the point at which people are like, oh, wait, we should maybe pay a little more attention to this. And, there's a lot of people that live out here.
And it's growing so rapidly, too.
Yeah, between Fort Collins, Denver, Boulder, Colorado Springs, and people are moving out here like crazy. So, yeah, I feel preachy. But anyways, I think we just lost Tyler.
Come back,
you're
Tyler. No.
You're still here, though. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
I was actually going to mention, too, just kind of bring back the challenge of forecasting here. So Aurora and out by Denver International Airport, which for those of you that don't know, it's east of the city. It's northeast of Denver, actually. In the summertime, we get a terrain-induced circulation, what's called the Denver Convergence Vorticity Zone. And that really is what develops a lot of non-supercellular tornadoes here. So they're not your traditional tornadoes that come from supercells with thunderstorms that are rotating. They're landspout features. So we have low-level rotation from this terrain-induced circulation, and we simply just need convection or an updraft to be co-located with one of those little circulations at the surface and stretch it. And places like Aurora that are expanding rapidly, they land right in this zone. So I wonder how maybe frequency of tornadoes, they're moving into these, not saying they're going to move into these, but with more and more people moving out into these areas and, this terrain-induced circulation there, I wonder how that's going to really, impact statistics here and how people are going to cope with that. So I think more research should be done on that topic. I think that would be really interesting. I don't know if there's anything out there, but
I think there's maybe a little bit of work. I think I've read a lot. Actually, the one paper I read was a long time ago, published a long time ago. But that's a good point. A similar case for DIA, the airport out here, gets a lot of those weak land spots nearby. I feel like at least once a summer there is a a picture from DIA of a landspout, or I don't know why I'm calling it a landspout. It's a tornado. Yeah, and fun fact about that, they were when they originally building that airport. I think it's over 20 years old now, 24 years old, I think. It used to be a lot closer to the city, and when they went to build it, they had, I believe they hired some meteorologists to tell them, is this a good spot for it? Because where they had it before, closer to the mountains, was a lot more dangerous to fly into. And the meteorologists told them, they did a study and they told them, this is a hot spot for tornadoes, for landspouts, because of the Denver convergence zone. And they built it anyways, because I guess they weren't convinced that it was going to be that big of a deal. Because a lot of people out here consider those glorified dust devils, although I think that's ridiculous.
They can do some damage.
Yeah, right. They can. And so anyways, that's a fun little anecdote about the Denver airport. Sorry, Tyler, you've had to listen to our Colorado weather.
No, it's fine. I'm sure that after a few months here, I'll have plenty of elevation forecasting stories to add. So yeah,
I bet. So one last question, Noah, and we kind of covered this already, but I'm going to change the question a little bit. We ask this to everyone who comes on the show. What skill do you think has been the most important to you throughout your career?
Oh, that's a very good question. Honestly, just knowing how to. This is going to sound extremely vague, but I still think this is the most important. Just knowing how to interact with people coming from all different parts of the field, and knowing how to, just communicate information. It always boils down to that. That's probably one of the most important skills. Not a very exciting answer, but I think it's extremely kind of underrated.
No, I like it.
Back into the social media aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's becoming more of a marketable skill, if I'm being honest. Being able to explain weather to non-weather people, that's huge.
And just being able to break stuff down. I'm going to be honest, I struggle with it a lot, and I'm just trying to get better at it. But it is so important, especially when I feel like a lot of people, just the general public, they're just becoming more and more interested by the weather, especially as we've seen some pretty extreme events in the past few years. So people kind of just want to know what's going on here and what's causing these. And I think being able to break that down is really valuable.
Thanks for the advice and thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you taking some time to talk with us, and hope to have you on again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And you can check out Noah's blog posts at weather5280.com. You can also follow them at weather5280. Great stuff there. Give them a follow on Facebook. Speaking of Facebook, we're also on Facebook. You can find us there. We're on Twitter at the WX Junkies. You can find everything, every summary of every podcast we've posted since the summer at theweatherjunkies.com. You can listen to this podcast on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, and basically any podcast provider you can think of. And finally, last but not least, if you are so kind, we could use a lot of help with keeping the website and the podcast host up to date. So if you can help us out over at patreon.com/theweatherjunkies. We're hoping to get a group to help us out and produce higher quality content, more content, and hoping to expand whether ready or not. Tyler, send us away.
Yes, happy to be back this week. We'll have more episodes coming up as we go deeper into January. As soon as we have a guest for next week, we'll announce it.
I think we lost Tyler, maybe, but
we lost Tyler.
Anyways, we'll announce our guest when we figure it out. I'll be in AMS all week, so I'm hoping to do some recordings down there. Don't know when we'll air them, but otherwise, we'll see you back here Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, or if you listen to this pre-recorded. You'll see it in your feed on Friday. Thanks for listening.
I am El Nino.